Mara, I'm going to turn it over to you. If you want to go ahead and share, we can go over to the meter and just explore that idea of, what is the Agile mindset? What comes to mind? So I'll let you take lead here.
Okay. Then, yeah, let me share with you. Okay, so the idea is we were talking about collaboration, of course, co-creation. So that's what we are going to do at this point. So the idea would be to invite everyone here just to make sure that we are co-creating a shared concept about what an agile mindset is. And we're going to do that, we can do that using 3 options. Actually, just let me share with you so you can see it more. Yeah, so the idea is to create, a cloud, a collaborative cloud, and you have 3 options as you can see here. So you can go type www.menti.com and type this voting code, or I'm going to share the link, a direct link in the chat, so you can participate directly there, or just use, if you are on a cell phone or you have your cell phone with you, just, use the QR code so you can connect there directly and just type some options, some words that you connect an agile mindset with. Okay, if there are any issues, please to participate, just let me know. And I'll be sharing shortly to see how it comes to life. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. I'm going to be sharing screen and see what it looks like. Just a sec. Let's have the presenting mode. There we are. We have some words popping up. Cool. Hope that everybody, has been able to participate, to introduce, some words. And as you can see, there's a bigger word there, that's adaptability. Yeah, as it means that several people are here in the room, in this virtual room, think that adaptability is a key word connected to the agile mindset, right? Okay, can you see let me see. Can you see the workflow now? Better, maybe? No?
Yeah, I mean, I see it on your screen, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's my screen. That's a good thing, even if you are in a Zoom room and you don't have permissions to share, or maybe, or you haven't asked for them previously, it's like, okay, there you are, other options. That's a good thing about tech, that there's always an option B, Z, whatever. So there we are. Yeah. Would you like to make any comments on what an agile mindset is, or, with the co-created, this collaborative word cloud that we have here? Anyone who just feel free, to share what it is about, or what do you connect an agile mindset with, looking at this?
Can I ask a question first? Like, adaptability is the largest one because it was the one that most of us typed, is that correct?
Yeah, so more than one person, yeah, it could be several people. So the words that are repeated, then they become, bigger and bigger. So that's interesting to see that that's, a shared word.
The reason I'm asking that is because I'm wondering, like, what I've found is that people, for example, the ones that are more willing or have done kind of like project-based learning in the past, they already are aware or embrace that kind of mindset where they're not so much textbook dependent, or they have a certain mindset. So I'm wondering if, because we're all here, we already have like an adaptable kind of spirit or kind of mentality. Even if we had no idea what Agile was, you kind of already embraced that kind of mentality in your thinking as well. Just my thought.
Yeah, no, I think that's a very valid point. And that's the challenge I think we face in education is getting people to open up to other mindsets or do things differently. One of the reasons I feel that this conversation is so important is, you know, Jessica pointed out the need to really get there from the pandemic. But this is something that, you know, personally, and I know other teachers are in the same situation, have been fighting this fight for years because we've realized that the education system is not keeping pace with the need of society. Masters from MIT, there were some professors that wrote a book back in, I think it was 2008 even, at least like 2012 at the latest. And one of the things they said about education, and this is a book that I dove into at the beginning of the pandemic to see, it's like, okay, I got to hone up on some technology skills. And it was education and technology. And they said that it was going to take a major economic, social, and political crisis for education to respond and finally change, to spark that catalyst. And I was just like, well, here it is. Hopefully, finally, people will start seeing more of these things like the Agile mindset, like creative problem solving, that Sidney Parnes-Osborne model, and seeing the value and the need for it, because we do need to adapt. And I think that's something that our students, you know, that you mentioned, point on. You know, it's easy to hook the ones that already have that mindset. How do we hook and engage and get the others that don't naturally have that mindset into this? I think is one of the things we could unpack there. So,
if I may add, I think your approach is phenomenal. I really love the demonstration. And when I looked at what you said, and number of people that spoke before me used the word adaptability. But it makes me to even think at deeper level. The former president of American APA, John Dewey, who is noted as one of America's highest or decorated educators, he said, I'm paraphrasing here, with change of circumstances, we must change to be in tune with the time. And someone spoke about how COVID propelled her to change. And it keeps reminding me that Agile is essentially the ability to adjust to circumstances and still be on the right trajectory. And that fits nicely into Stanford professor's view, Carol Dweck, who wrote about the fixed mindset. In that context, fixed mindset are usually reflected of those who believe that they know it all. And when you actually get into it, you find out that they're really stupid. They don't know anything. Then you contrast it with the growth mindset. Growth mindset are people who believe that they continuously learn. They learn even from the people they don't agree with. They learn something valuable from them. And when they learn those things, they add that to whatever they're doing and thus get to a higher and better position in what they're thinking or whatever they're doing. So it's incumbent upon us to implement your idea in education, because in education there are people who should be superior to those we adore as being good, but those who we sort of marginalize because they had never obtained the foundational aspect of what they need to succeed. As Rosalind said, that they gave her a book and she found it not really working. So she kind of found something that works and started working out of the box. As a result, she connected with the people with like-minded people like Jessica, And now they're teaming up and working and supporting one another. And ladies and gentlemen, that's what it's all about. And that's the crux of diversity and inclusion. A lot of people are so naive that it can't even imagine. And it's not their fault, I might add. It's because of circumstances in which they were shaped. So it becomes incumbent upon us to embark on this almost insurmountable issue. How do you reverse years of ingrained misconceptions that is driven by fixed mindset and change it to growth mindset so that people can learn and ultimately help us to shape a better future? So thank you so much. I really like what you've presented.
Okay, and let's, I'm just interested, let's go ahead and unpack this. Mara, I'll let you, I mean, this was your baby, if you will. So feel free, let's springboard off this. So what is an agile mindset to us? Why is it important to explore this concept? Mara, we'll start with you, and then Jessica and Rosalind, I'll let you take it away.
Okay, just let me share then. I don't know if I have much to say. First, I didn't present really nothing, but just, you know, the collaboration and co-creation that we just did all together. So for me, that's part, you know, having an agile mindset. And of course, a few months ago, I wouldn't have imagined I would be doing something like this. Yeah, so it's about this type of mindset that we may have here, that each of us, you know, may have here, just to be open to change, to adjust with what it comes, to just be ready to fail, and failing as understood as a first attempt in learning. Yeah, so that's all about, you know, failure and seeing that as an opportunity to grow, to learn, to continue learning. And something that Joseph, you mentioned about this, just gathering together with like-minded people. It's nice to be with like-minded people, but do you really learn from like-minded people? You can learn with them, from them, but obviously you can even learn much more with people who have very, you know, different perspectives. Yeah, and this is why I'm really excited to be here, honestly. So just, even if there's some common core, yeah, okay, so what about this agile mindset, but then different contexts, different educational environments and ecosystems can lead us to a bigger type of learning, yeah. Something that I really like is the word adaptability, of course, and there are some other words, you know, that we could pay attention to and focus a little bit more. So maybe if I just show again, you know, this constant reflection. That constant reflection made me think of John Dewey. Joseph, you mentioned John Dewey as well, yeah? So that reflection in over the action, into the action, you know, in the, you know, all that, and over in our educational practices. If there's no reflection, well, there might be learning, but what type of learning could that be? So we are talking about deep learning, yeah, to create, to be able to be problem solvers in this world. And of course, for that, we need different type of skills, and we definitely need a growth mindset. Yeah, we had that mention about Carol Dweck. If we think about growth mindset, we think about her, of course, and the power of yet, or rather not yet. Yeah, that's, I particularly like that not yet concept. Yeah, and it's also about communication, and it's effective communication. It's about collaboration. It's about creative thinking, yeah, and many skills put together. And something that I really value from, and I think it's really necessary to, when we are talking about an agile mindset, is the kind of values that are surrounding, you know, and embedded with that kind of mindset. So it's about respect, about each other's talents, each other's strengths, each other's areas of growth, yeah, and all that. It's about trust. It's about trusting a team. It's about transparency and all these kind of values that really make this agile mindset possible to flourish, yeah, and as educators to nourish. And that also connects me to the question that David, you posed at the very beginning. Okay, so yeah, the ones who are already a little bit adaptable, flexible, and we like to adjust to new circumstances and challenges and yeah, situations. So what happens with those educators that are not really into that? Yeah, how can we change and how can we shift that mindset? And maybe it's not about making something obligatory, like, okay, now we're going to get into Agile and we have to do this and this and this. I don't know how effective has that been proved, you know. In my learning educational environments and ecosystems, it hasn't proved to be, you know, very successful. But then there's this, one of the 8 forces from in creating cultures of thinking, for instance, that's about modeling. So I think that modeling can be a good start here for educators who really are embracing an agile mindset, and they are just being models for other educators and for their learners as well. So I just leave it there. Maybe Jessica, you would like to add something else? Sure. I'm sure you have many things.
I just want to jump in.
I just want to say something really quickly. I'm a big fan of being sneaky, especially with adults, because adults resist change more than kids. So it's almost like before I started trying to eat better, I would only eat like fattening stuff. Now I just eat it half the time. But the point is, if somebody tried to give me vegetables, or somebody tried to give me what was quote unquote vegan food, if they told me what it was, I wouldn't eat it. But if I ate it and it was good, as long as you didn't tell me, I would go back to that. So I am a proponent of just show me. I don't need to know how it works. If it works and the kids are learning, great, I'll figure it out on the way down. And I think sometimes we try to explain too much on the front end. And this is coming from a person, I like details. I like to know how I'm going to get there, but some people that freaks out. So if a teacher comes to you, or another educator comes to you, or your admin comes to you and says, hey, what is going on different in your class? You don't necessarily need to lead with Agile. You can say with what you are doing, I'm teaching them skills. Instead of they are learning the content this way, I am having them ask more questions. I am not giving them the answers. We're doing something a little bit different. We're not going from the textbook. We're doing it this way. And then as they get more into the routine and the process, then I can say, hey, do you know what you were doing? We were doing Agile, and this is where it comes from. And this is how you have all this productivity, and we're able to learn more instead of only getting to this chapter. We were able to do 2 more chapters in this year. But if I tell them this is Agile and this is what we're doing, they're going to shut down, because it's going to be, especially from teachers, oh my God, this is one more thing I have to learn. Or the kids, what is Agile? What is this? And then they tell their parents, and then you get parent emails and administrative emails because they're getting parent emails. No, if you tell them if you just show them, hey, this is what we're doing and it's fun and they like it, then you got them. And then they see the results. So sometimes, you know what, less is more. Don't tell me, let's just do it.
And I think that's a great thing to lead with, Roz, is that through my entire year, not until the last day of class did I tell my kids that they were doing Agile and Scrum. You know, if they questioned why they had to use a Kanban board or they had to build a flap because we started with Agile Scrum, I might say something like, this is a system that adults use in real corporations, and I'm trying to give you skills. And that usually satisfies them, because kids really need a purpose. And a lot of kids question why they're in school. Why am I learning this? I am very lucky that I teach civics, because you could never ask me, why do I need to know about my own government system? Or why do I need to know about my own history? Because like, duh, open a newspaper. That's why you need to know about why your government works. So, you know, I'm very lucky in that I teach a subject that's always relevant, that you could always tie into current day. But kids really want to know that, and you can tell in casual conversation with them when they don't find purpose in their education, when they're doing something in, let's say, and it's easy for me to pick on math because I'm not math brain, but if they're like, why do I need to know what an isosceles triangle is? I don't have an answer for them, honestly. But if it was framed in a project where they were architects building a house and they were competing against each other, and they needed to know the area of each room and they needed to know which angles supported other angles, that would be purposeful learning. Then no one would go, why do I need to know an isosceles triangle? They would go, oh, we need like 7 isosceles triangles over there. And that changes the whole function of education. And so we don't necessarily need to use the labels for everything. It's about what kind of learning is actually happening. How is learning happening, and how is it purposeful? Because a lot of these things, our kids, even, I mean, we work in a prep school, but our kids kill and drill because they know there's not application after. If we're showing constant application and we're showing purpose, it doesn't matter what we call it. And again, to second another point that both Mar and Rosalind made is it's important for, I just totally lost my train of thought. Well, you guys said something so smart. Oh, I got it back. I'm sorry.
Well, yeah, there
I've
we
been
go.
talking a lot today. Is teachers are very resistant to adding new things to their workload. Teachers are notoriously overstressed, and I can tell you, even as an ambitious teacher, and I am like high energy, like doing cartwheels around the room kind of teacher. Like I have energy, but when I get an email the day before school starts with another initiative that my school is starting, I'm like the kids. I'm like, oh no, they're like I'm dying. So, you know, teachers don't want another thing on their plate. And I think an important difference to really stress to teachers as we're talking about Scrum or Agile is this is not another thing that you're adding. If you are in public school, this is not another box you're adding to your lesson plans. This is not another thing that your admin is coming and checking in off the room. If anything, Agile will make your job easier because you are giving kids the work to do. And I think about it this way, and a great way to talk about, especially teachers that are really into their pedagogy, the top level of Bloom's taxonomy is teaching. So how selfish are you if you're the only one teaching?
Right.
Your kids are never allowed to hit the top level of Bloom's taxonomy because you won't stop talking. Stop talking and let them do it. And when you let them do it, you're putting the work onto them. And they're having to figure it out themselves. And you can still hit your standards. You can still hit your curriculum. You can still have your assessments. You still have grades. You can still operate within the system that you are given. You do not need to have a revolution against an ingrained system. You need to find a hack to hack the system that you're already in. And this is a great way to do it because you can work through your standards. You work through your curriculum. Your administration's really happy with you. Your kids are really happy with you. You're displacing the work. And when you displace the work, I don't mean that you're sitting at your desk, like twiddling your thumbs playing on Amazon. I mean, you're able to work in small groups. You're able to effectively differentiate, which I know all educators struggle with. We all struggle with the idea of how are we meeting all the needs of our students in our room. We have so many IEPs in every room. We have so many different things that we need to juggle. You know what, though? When you do small group instruction, you're able to meet those differentiation needs. So if I have a room with high-level students and low-level students and kids in between, if Roz is my high-level student, I'm not standing there giving the same instructions 3 times while she's bored and she lost her train of thought. If somebody else on the other, Johnny on the other side of the room, struggles and is low and he needs the directions written out for him in 3 different ways, now I have the time to go do that while Roz goes and takes off and she's already working through her project. So you're meeting the kids where they are. You're working in small groups. You're giving individual attention. And best of all of students are gaining autonomy and they're getting self-esteem. So you're never in that classroom that the high kids are taking off and the low kids are like, I don't know what's going on, because you're sitting with the low kids helping them, and then they feel successful because they're doing it themselves. You're guiding a little extra, but they're not the kid holding up the whole class or the kid that's too embarrassed to ask the question and then they don't know what they're doing and they're falling behind even further. That's why we have kids in this system that they're constantly falling behind. They're not getting the individual attention, not because it's the educator's fault. It's obviously the system's fault, but this is a way to hack the system so that you're rising all students. All students get autonomy, all students get purpose, all students get self-esteem, and all students are building skills that are absolutely necessary for the world. They're not listing off dates of wars. No one cares. It's not important. Google it. They need to know how to problem solve. They need to know how to work together. They need to have self-esteem. This is important.
It's interesting at the end, the one thing that always kind of torn in is that almost abandoning the memorization of certain details, because one of the things I've told my students for years was, look, technology is your best friend and your worst enemy. Because like, it's your best friend because it gives you access to this information. You can look this up so quickly, but it's your worst memory, or your worst enemy, because I fear what it's doing for your working memory. And it's not that that information isn't important. And the way our long-term memory works is attaching an emotional response or value to that information. And I tell them, I was like, look, if you're defaulting your brain to seeing a fact and saying, oh, that's not important, I can always Google it later, you've just sabotaged your memory. I was like, you should want to absorb as much as you can as if you're never going to see that information again. And I would give them anecdotes from my own personal experience learning in that, and bring up lessons that I did in 3rd grade. They're just, how do you remember that? I was like, because I valued what I was learning. I was like, if you get into a heated debate, you're not going to be able to pause that debate and be like, oh, wait, I know I have information. Let me just Google it real quick. You've just lost all credibility then. And I was like, that's going to come back and bite you later. But also, I mean, you want to get that laser focus, you know, and in high school, and that's where there's a little bit of play I feel in that. But I do let them know, like, look, you do need to value the information. I don't want you just doing exactly what you said, rote memorization and going. But I absolutely love your share. You literally just went down the list of all the valuable things for teachers and students, the differentiation, how it applies to that, the, you know, saving the time, the project-based learning, the student advocacy. That one of the things that I saw in that book that I'd referenced earlier was how homeschooled children showed, they did multiple studies, they showed that they're much more self-reliant in their learning. And that's something where I see Agile stepping in. The 21st and 22nd century skills, you know, since 2003, I'm going to conferences, and the main things that Fortune 500 companies and other employees were begging for from their students that they weren't, or from their prospective employees that they weren't getting, was creative problem solving, critical thinking, communication, all these soft skills. You just know, collaboration, all that. So fantastic share. Rosalind, was there anything else you wanted to add to that? Or
I'm
piggyback?
sorry. I'm sorry. Like I told somebody else, this is dangerous when Jessica and I get together. A couple of points. A couple of points. First, I'm going to go to yours, David, before I forget. How you were talking about that about the good and bad part of technology. And I think all good teachers debate this. But the thing is that what Jessica is really great at doing at the beginning of the year, and I'm trying to get better about this, is having kids know how they learn. Okay, because that helps them reflect as they go, and then it helps us meet them where they are. And then we're not only teaching them how we learn, we're teaching them or meeting them where they learn, which is important. And the thing is that when you remembered that activity that you did from 3rd grade, it was because you felt it. It was because it was important to you. The teacher gave you some kind of thing that connected with you. You had to, quote unquote, grapple with it. You had to fight with it to understand it, to be able to use it, to apply it. So no matter what it is, whether they're writing it on a Jamboard electronically, whether they're writing it, most times as I prefer when we can safely, if you're writing it in a notebook, because I tell my kids all the time, the more you write it, the more you're going to remember it. That's the way it works. But I understand, and especially during the last COVID year, I didn't take any handwritten work because my daughter has a chronic illness and we have to be extra careful. So that was something that I had to give up just for me and my personal sanity. But the thing is, it wasn't just how they were taking notes, it was how I was having them use or apply the information. So if I had to give up my preferred way to have them remember stuff, I had to give them other opportunities to be able for that to stick. You follow what I'm saying? So yes, teaching them how they learn and how they need to get that memory is important. But I do think part of Agile too is in this year where like the world blew up and everything was on fire, we can adapt in how we have them do that. And part of what I could do and what I'm going to try to do this year is give them the option of how they are taking notes. I don't have to see it. They can take a picture of the written notes and then they can submit it if I don't want handwritten stuff. So the thing is that all of us have to be adaptable, the students and the teachers, and how we want to do that to make sure that they are doing the best thing to make sure that that sticks. The other thing of what Jess was talking about is how you are able to meet the kids where they are and you can do more differentiated instruction. And I know that also scares a lot of teachers because you're like, holy crap, now I have to plan 3 different lessons. That's not true. Think about what you're doing already in your class. You already have it. If you're like me, what I was doing was teaching units already electronic. All the links and the activities are already there. What Agile is helping you do is kind of reorganize or plan how you're going to present that to the kids, giving them options. I already know the quizzes or activities or different assessments that I'm going to give them. Do I give them all up front? Do I show them, okay, you have to do 2 out of these 3 activities? Do you have to do all 10? Are some of them required? Are some of them for enrichment? And when am I going to schedule it in the lesson? So it's like you are using the stuff you already have. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You're already a great teacher. All Agile is making you do is kind of reorganize your framework and use that glue to be able to make it work more cohesively. So when we're explaining to other educators that may be freaked out, oh my gosh, I don't want to do this, you already have the resources there. We are just trying to help you make sure that you're planning it in a more effective way so that the students are empowered to do it and you don't have to introduce it and teach it all at the same time and then you're missing your kids. So I hope that was
first approach, right? Like that's exactly what you're saying. It's student first, is that you're not doing it. You're delegating to the students. You set your end goals, you set your learning goals, you still have your criteria, you have everything that you need. Then the students do the work, because why are you doing the work? I already know civics. I don't need to redo it. I'm sorry, Mara, I interrupted you.
Ladies, I'd like to share something else. Ross, yeah?
No,
yeah, because I was taking notes, yeah, the old-fashioned way. Yeah, that's how we are. Yeah, we are all different. Yeah, and we were talking about differentiated learning and how to, how to create the opportunities for learners to learn and to reflect and to be mindful about the way they learn. Yeah, and I shared already in the chat about this concept about the UDL, yeah, the Universal Design for Learning, and I think that's kind of magical word, like all of a sudden, so there are multiple intelligences, there are many different types of and ways of learning, and there it is. And it's not only there in the learners, in the young learners, it's also in the adult learners like us. Yeah, so that, I think that can be a way to get teachers and educators, yeah, and to pull them and get them into and to hook them into an agile mindset. It's like, okay, that's good. Let's go start it. And as you said, Ross, it's not about reinventing the wheel. Maybe it's about looking at that wheel from a different and a new angle and seeing what you can do better. Maybe not for you, or maybe for you and for your learners, of course, with the learners first, yeah, in mind. So that was connecting me to that idea of how we can, not push, but invite other educators, yes, to move forward and to see that there are other ways of doing things. Yeah, and I'm going to share an example, a very short example. I was talking with a teacher these days, a friend of mine. She was like, well, Mar, we had a discussion or an argument with another teacher saying, okay, no, students have to do and to write a poem. And the other teacher was like, no, they have to create a visual poem. No, but a poem with metrics and with this and with that. No, but how about a visual poem? Okay, what if we think about the multiple perspectives and different ways, of that learners and students, can learn how to write a poem, but that poem can be expressed in many different ways. Why not a haiku? Yeah, why not a visual poem? Why not? Yeah, so that was really funny because they had this argument. It was like, okay, either black or white. Well, it's not about black or white. Maybe it's about all the rainbow. Yeah, and that also applies, of course, for every single learner and a student, and creating those opportunities. Yeah, and I'd like to mention also that we have here another opportunities. Yeah, is another of the 8 forces from creating cultures of thinking. So it's like, okay, so we have, yeah, there that second force to see how we can transform educational ecosystems, offering opportunities, not only for learners, but maybe for educators, and we can do it, you know, maybe modeling. And I would like to say many other things, but just feel free, you know. It was like connecting.
Yeah, and I want to make sure that we all get the time to do this and just share some of the current projects that you're working on right now, you know, how you see this moving forward, like how you're utilizing this agile mindset and some of the things that you have and what you're offering to other educators or the public or your students. So Mara, if you want to just kind of continue off that, what you're doing with EduNomad. I know you've got several projects, so maybe highlight that key one that you're really driving at the moment.
Well, there are different ones. Yeah, I'm collaborating with a project about creating a new and different ecosystem, educational and innovative ecosystem. So that's with Light Schools, and they are using and applying an agile mindset, of course. And I'd like to share, I don't know if you've heard of EduScrum. Yeah, let me see here. Yeah, EduScrum is the Scrum version for education that was created by Willie Wignans. And that starts with the agile mindset. That starts, you know, with the values, core values that we were mentioning before. And of course, you know, there are those pillars, and there's this idea of working in teams. This is something that we mentioned at the very beginning of the webinar, this idea of teams. Yeah, and that's something that I'm particularly, you know, very fond of, because I'm actually co-writing a book with 2 North American people. So that's what, you know, virtual education and the virtual world gives us and offers us many opportunities. Yeah. So for me, it's, you know, all about teams and different teams. And it's cool to think, okay, teachers, let's get students, you know, to work in teams. And we are the first ones maybe who are not sure how to do that properly. Yeah, I can see some smiles on some faces. Yeah, I don't know why, but that's true. Yeah, that's true. It's like, okay, let's just start with us. Yeah, David, you even mentioned administration. What would happen, you know, if the people or the board of directors, you know, of school and an organization, an institution,
Wasn't it run smoothly?
It will be different. The important thing is that in the end, someone makes a move, you know, and models how to work in a true collaborative team. Yeah, and from there it's like, okay, yeah, that's working. Oh, how did you do that?
I love it when, you know, when you're fortunate enough to work for an administrative team that truly does see everyone there as colleagues. They realize, look, we all have pretty much the same amount of education for the most part, you know. But they don't set up that expectation or this image that the administrative team is higher than the teachers. They see, you know, that it works so smoothly when you get a team like that really trusts their teachers to do their jobs, values their input and feedback, and you are an equal there. You are safe coming to them and giving suggestions, and you don't have to worry about getting admonished because you've overstepped. You know, that's such a powerful, you talked about the ecosystems and the culture, and that's a discussion for a whole nother topic another day. But so Jessica, I'll turn it over to you, that, you know, your current projects just frame some of the stuff that I know you and Roz are working on some things together. So
thank you, David. So Roz and I were brought into Agile training through Jeff Bernstein and his organization, leaf.org. David, we see you there too. And Roz and I have developed our own company called the Agile Mind, where we offer those initial Agile trainings, but then we go further to help build out Agile into the classroom. So you would take your initial course through Leaf, which is about a 6-week course where we meet and help develop an agile mindset in your classroom. But then we continue on with it, where we help you create your your curriculum beyond that 6-week period. Because a lot of times we know as educators, what happens is you take this course, usually it's a 2 or 3 day course. So in this situation, we understand that developing a new mindset is not you're going to go for a weekend course and come out a new person, right? So you need that sustained practice over and over again to open up your mind. Because honestly, in this agile transformation, it's changed my classroom, but it's also changed me and the way that I see the world and the way that you see possibilities, or the way that you're able to run small experiments and reflect and collaborate and work with larger teams. So this is not just a quick fix to your curriculum. It's kind of honestly, for me, it was a lifestyle overhaul. But the hard part is that you go through these kinds of things and you have the support, and then all of a sudden you're by yourself and you have a new unit to plan and your kid is sick and life happens, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, whatever, just hand out the dittos. I got to get through this. And what we're trying to prevent is that going back to the old. And you hear that a lot in education right now. People are like, oh, thank God we go back to the norm. No, the norm was terrible before. You just didn't know. It's still terrible. We're not going back. It's not happening. It's not good for our kids. So no, I don't want you to go back, and I don't want you to slip up and say, life happened and then it was hard and then I handed out worksheets. We're here to help support you in curriculum development, in constantly having that touchstone, so you can come back to us. We can help you work through questions, help you scaffold, because different units and feedback from kids, feedback from administrators, if you're constantly trying to adapt, that's not an easy thing to necessarily do by yourself. You need a team of support. And that's what Roz and I are here to provide for educators across the world, so that we can really spread this message, even if it's one teacher at a time. Because once you're successful, other people will see that you're successful, and other people will want to know your secret. And when you become the rock star in your school, other people will be like, what is she doing that she's having so much, or he's doing, I'm sorry, to have so much time to differentiate? And what are they doing that they're doing small group instruction? And why are their kids moving through curriculum faster? And you're going to want to share it. So it becomes something that you need support to make sure that you're not breaking out and then crashing. We want to prevent that crash. We want to help you sustain this for as long as possible. And if that means developing your whole year with you, call me. We're here. Awesome. We want to make systematic change.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Roz, is there anything you want to add to that?
Nope. Just
got it. No, yeah, Adam, he had to balance, but he's actually he's taking on a director at Osiris Education. He was in here for a minute. He's done some amazing world educational summits in the past. Mar, I know you're familiar with Adam because Adam introduced us. So, but Adam Collis, he's one that I hope to be able to pull back into these and definitely get into the conversation. So for me, with this Agile mindset, my main goal in applying this is establishing global learning communities. I was passionate about that at the beginning of the pandemic, and it really built upon a feeling that I already had that would be a phenomenal solution. And one, it also addresses the 22nd century soft skills of teaching students how to work on global collaborative teams, not just within the classroom, but being able to be on this kind of 24-hour project cycle and communicate with a team that isn't right there in the classroom with you. It also does everything you just highlighted, Jessica, that Agile does in terms of kind of alleviating some of that stress, but it also allows you to collaborate with literally teachers all over the world and have them as resources. Being able to train these students, and the word teacher, honestly, I haven't even liked since graduating from the creative studies students. I always call myself a facilitator of learning, because that's, like you said, the teacher shouldn't be up there talking to the students. That self-directed, giving that autonomy, you're facilitating. A good teacher should be facilitating the learning. It's no longer the teacher's role, and it never really should have been, to just dictate facts and say, here you go, this is what you need to learn, and not really digging into the why. The students should be grappling with the challenges, as Roz had mentioned earlier. So for me, a way to really amplify this, and it's funny, a group of students from the Baltics that I worked with, their findings from a research project that I worked on them with at the beginning of the pandemic was exploring how they might support teacher morale during the pandemic. And that came from a group of high school students. And within 3 months, one of the solutions that they did through this survey that they pulled in like 4 different countries or no, 5 different countries, 4 different languages, got over 500 responses from educators. And one of the solutions that they posed was having student cohorts learn creative problem solving, or, you know, we can do it in Agile too, is these powerful tools that are transformative in education. And then pairing those student cohorts with the teachers to help them actually design curriculum that's best for students. So that's kind of the power and some of the reasoning behind that. So as any of the other participants, I know Alexandra, you've utilized Leaf. Uchenna, is there anything that you gained that you just want to reflect or thank or add to the conversation here? And wait time covered. Oh yeah, that's an initiative that you did last year, right, Jessica? Wait time. All right. Well, I want to thank you all for your time, your insights. I look forward to being able to collaborate in the future and really do more with this, and hopefully bring us back in when we have a little bit more traction with this and we're getting more of an audience. Thank you all. Adam did send his love. He absolutely loved what he was hearing from the conversation, but he had to go bounce out. He's in Budapest time right now. So. All right, anyone else want to add anything in closing? Otherwise, again, thank you for, I mean, I think you guys all touched so many valuable points and how this is powerful in education and why it has so much value. So I do appreciate that.
Thank you for including us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's a pleasure.
It's great to
Pleasure
meet
to all mine.
everyone.